Well, I saw some video reviews of this console, as well as some written reviews, indicating that, despite the hype, it wasn't all that, and that intrigued me. So I decided to look at its emulation power, which is what's on the screen, indicating that it's supposed to be almost perfect, as it says it can handle the GameCube, Wii, 3DS, PS2, Wii U, all of which are fully playable, as well as most Switch games and some PS3 games that are fully playable, and then I decided to go for the benchmarks. Considering that it has an Intel Core Ultra 5 SoC in one version, with 14 cores, and Core Ultra 7, with 16 cores, equipped with an Intel Meteor Lake CPU that can reach an incredible 4.8 GHz, as well as an Intel Arc GPU that reaches up to 2.2 GHz, I figured that combining this with 16 GB LPDDR5 of RAM, a 53 Wh battery, and a good screen would solve all the problems, but it seems not. The CPU benchmark results indicate these values, in addition to the computational results, with the GPU at work, and it's surprising to see such criticism, isn't it? Because these results are in line with its emulation power, but what went wrong then? Let's move on to the gameplay tests, which, if we look at them in depth, are fine, everything is correct. And then I remembered some reviews talking about TDP, including a video I made and will leave on the card of this video addressing this. And from here on I'll talk about TDP and how it impacts on performance and how it's hurting the MSI Claw. It's probably boring, but it's necessary. TDP, which stands for Thermal Design Power, is a metric used to indicate the maximum amount of heat that a device's cooling system needs to dissipate. The problems with TDP in the MSI Claw indicate that the device has a relatively high minimum power consumption for a portable device. The minimum TDP of 15 watts mentioned in some reviews suggests that the device cannot operate in a low power mode, which could be a disadvantage in terms of energy efficiency and battery life. For example, a comment on Reddit mentions that the Steam Deck has a maximum TDP of 15 watts and can operate as low as 4 watts, which contributes to better energy efficiency and battery life compared to the MSI Claw A1M. Watch the following video where it is compared with the ROG Ally Z1 Extreme. For different games, make up the tests here, across multiple TDP settings ranging from the max setting to as low as 15 watts. It was on the lowest setting that the biggest performance disparity was discovered, as while playing Shadow of the Tomb Raider, the MSI Claw manages 24 frames per second while the ROG Ally almost doubled it with 42 frames per second. On max TDP, the gap was closed to just 4 frames per second, with the Claw managing 49 frames per second and the Ally pushing 53 frames per second. Of the other games tested, the MSI Claw underperformed in all of them. Cyberpunk 2077, running on low presets, alternating between FSR and CSS, provided a 44.8 frames per second average on the Claw, and 59.8 frames per second on the ROG Ally. The video specifies that the MSI Claw with the Intel Core Ultra 7 155H is being tested, which is the more powerful of the two models set to be available at retail. And what explains this is that TDP is directly related to the performance and FPS of a device. In the context of the MSI Claw, a minimum TDP of 15 watts means that the device cannot reduce its power consumption below that point without potentially compromising performance. Remember that a higher TDP allows the processor and GPU to operate at higher frequencies for longer periods, which can result in higher performance and FPS. If the device cannot operate below a certain TDP, this may indicate that it needs to maintain a minimum level of power consumption to sustain the performance required for gaming and emulation. In addition, if the device reaches its TDP limit and cannot dissipate heat efficiently, it may suffer from thermal throttling, where the processor frequency is reduced to prevent overheating. This can lead to a drop in FPS and inconsistent performance. Not to mention the decrease in battery life. After all, it is a mobile device and not fixed near a power outlet. I imagine that tweaks to its software can indeed improve a device's energy efficiency and performance without harming it, and it's possible that MSI could release firmware or software updates that optimize the MSI Claw's operation. But it's important to note that TDP is also a hardware design feature. Therefore, while software can help optimize power usage, it cannot change the physical specifications of the device. MSI may release updates that improve the situation, but it is unlikely that drastic changes to the minimum TDP will be possible without changes to the hardware. What do you think of this device? Leave your comments and thanks for watching. Subscribe if you wish and see you in the next video.